Fantasy author Brandon Sanderson is about to release the 5th novel in the Stormlight Archive, the epic saga that is at the heart of his multiverse. As with any time a Stormlight book is on the way, conversations about how the series deserves to be a TV series are reaching a fever pitch. The potentially record-breaking Wind and Truth could do much to elevate those discussions of bringing the entirety of the Cosmere universe into live action. Soon to consist of 5 novels, 3 novellas, and several essays expanding on the Cosmere's extensive magic system, and 5 more novels on the way. The Stormlight Archive is a fantasy series that combines epic battles, internecine politics, and existential angst into a story that clearly shows why Sanderson is continually one of the biggest names in fantasy. Discussions about a TV adaptation of Stormlight have drawn comparisons with Game of Thrones, but Stormlight has an advantage over the older series that, if handled correctly, could translate to a series premiere that would enshrine it as one of the greatest fantasy sagas ever released. A Stormlight Archive TV show would kick off with a huge battle right at the beginning, an in-media residential opening sequence that is equal parts Shakespeare and Final Fantasy: The Way of Kings. The first book in the Stormlight Archive kicks off with a back-to-back-to-back set of explosive chapters that quickly immerse the reader in the scale of the conflicts that have shaped the world of Roshar. The opening prelude of the novel immediately drops us into the aftermath of a nearly apocalyptic battlefield, with massive monstrous corpses piled high as an enigmatic group of heroes, the Heralds, discuss abandoning their oaths and leave their mighty magical swords embedded in the bare rock of the desolate battlefield. The next chapter, the prologue, catapults us 4,500 years ahead to see Szeth's son Valino, an assassin, infiltrate a celebration held by King Gavilar of Alethkar, who is welcoming delegates from the non-human Parshendi. Szeth possesses powers that Gavilar's guards cannot withstand, and he shatters the evening's joy with overwhelming violence, slaughtering Gavilar before he disappears into the night. Brandon Sanderson has developed a complex magic system in the Stormlight Archive. Here's our breakdown of the Knights' Radiant Orders and their powers. Finally, the first proper chapter of the novel introduces us to a young man named Kaladin, the leader of a group of ordinary soldiers who is venerated by his men for his skill at protecting them. As they are thrown into battle, they come up against a shardbearer, a warrior clad in near impenetrable shardplate and bearing a soul-killing shard blade, and through Kaladin's leadership they manage to slay the shardbearer. Although this winds up having consequences Kaladin could never have predicted. Shards are powerful relics on Roshar, the remaining equipment of the legendary Knights Radiant who abandoned their duties ages ago. Shardplate is a kind of armored suit fueled by Stormlight, a magical energy harvested from the great storms that sweep across Roshar, and is nearly invulnerable to normal weapons. Shardblades are massive swords that can cut through matter like it isn't even there. Instead of damaging flesh, though, they kill the soul. A limb cut with a shard blade becomes gray and limp, while someone whose spine or head is sliced through dies almost immediately, their eyes burning away into smoke. This unrelenting chain of action sequences leaves a new reader dizzy with excitement. No matter how a TV adaptation might shift the course of these events for pacing, it could easily start with any of these spectacular action sequences and showcase the phenomenal potential of the Stormlight Archive as the usurper to Game of Thrones' legacy. Even Game of Thrones didn't have epic action right from Season 1. Game of Thrones' ominous prologue is overshadowed by the show transitioning straight into court politics. One major Mistborn and Game of Thrones difference reveals a unique strategy for adapting Brandon Sanderson's books. There are many differences between Mistborn and Game of Thrones, but one could be the key to adapting Brandon Sanderson's fantasy series. The majority of Game of Thrones' entire first season is concerned with how the Stark family is dragged unwillingly into the worst of Westerosi politics, and viewers quickly learn that any character with even a hint of a conscience is doomed in the face of King Joffrey's manic bloodlust. While critical reception of the season was generally positive, there's no question that it takes several episodes for Game of Thrones to build any kind of dramatic tension, never mind that we don't even get to see any dragons until the very closing moments of the final episode. While political drama can be exciting, there's a fine line to walk between using it to create slow-burning tension and letting it dampen any other excitement. While political drama can be exciting, there's a fine line to walk between using it to create slow-burning tension and letting it dampen any other excitement, as in the cautionary tale of Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. The Stormlight Archive is certainly full of political intrigue, particularly as the Alethi nobles scheme for power in the aftermath of King Gavlair's death, but it succeeds in finding a balance in no small part because, in the world of Rashar, it is those same politicians and nobles who are on the front lines of the war, wielding their mighty shard blades. Adapting the Stormlight Archive's opening battle comes with one big challenge: massive cavalry charges and giant magical swords make for a daunting effects budget. The main challenge a Stormlight TV adaptation faces is the sheer scope of the show, particularly the battle sequences. The Prelude's battlefield is littered with the corpses of 30-foot-tall stone monsters. The prologue has Szeth ignoring the laws of gravity as he slaughters Gavlair's guards, and then the first chapter is set amidst a cavalry skirmish that would be right at home in The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. All that combines into a daunting amount of visual effects for any show, let alone one based on a novel series that is still outside the mainstream. Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere RPG makes one change that D&D could use. A huge new Kickstarter RPG has a cool concept that would be surprisingly easy to implement into Dungeons & Dragons campaigns for fun results. Still, visual effects budgets are what major streaming platforms are all about these days, so whatever network picks up the Stormlight Archive, hopefully they will understand that the show's success will hinge on just how much viewers' jaws drop at the first sight of a shard blade, or when Dalinar Kholin and his son Adolin defeat the kaiju-like Chasm Fiend, or when Kaladin earns the name Storm-Blessed. Until any news breaks, fans will still be content with devouring Wind and Truth when it releases on December 6th. The Stormlight Archive is an epic fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson, set on the storm-ravaged world of Rashar. The series follows multiple characters, each with their unique storylines, as they navigate political intrigue, ancient prophecies, and powerful magic. Central to the story are the Knights Radiant, legendary warriors with magical abilities who must return to save their world from impending destruction. The series explores themes of honor,